Go ahead. We're ready. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daryl Steinberg. Today is a happy day to be the mayor of Sacramento. I am joined by our police chief, Kathy Lester, leadership from our police department, and as importantly, the leadership of our community and our community-based organizations who are the reason that I have the privilege today to make really an astounding announcement. We all know that our city, like every major city in California and the United States, has its challenges, and we talk about it all the time. So imagine this headline based on facts. Crime is down in the city of Sacramento by 20%. Violent crime is down 40%. The city is now seen as a national leader when it comes to strategic policing and collaboration between the police and the community. The city last night invested another $3.2 million in our leading community-based organizations to make sure that we are doing as much on the prevention and early intervention side as we are on the law enforcement side itself. Imagine if there was such a headline. Well, I don't know how you're going to write or report this, but what I just told you is the fact that we are here to present today. I want to put these statistics in just a little bit of context and then turn it over to our police chief, Kathy Lester. When I say that crime is down nearly 20%, I'm comparing January 1 through September 30th of 2021 through September 30th of 2023. The national violent crime statistics say that violent crime is down 1.7%. And as I said a moment ago, our rate is down 20%. The national murder rate, thankfully, is down 6.1%. Our homicide rate is down 40% over that time period. Rape nationally, of course, one of any of these terrible crimes is one too many. But rape is down 5.4% nationally. In Sacramento, over the time period I mentioned, 40.1%. Aggravated assault nationally down 1.1%. In the city of Sacramento, down 21.1%. Something is going right here in the city of Sacramento. And I think it is as important as much attention as we rightfully pay on our challenges, whether it be homelessness, whether it be the crime issue in general, that we report to the public when there is good news that is not just like improvement on the margin, but is actually dramatic improvement. Now, why does this happen? What is the reason? We're going to discuss that here today. But I can tell you what I believe the reason to be is that we have built community here in Sacramento. We have built relationships between the police and the lead community-based organizations in the community. We know each other. You see it every single time we have a tragedy or troubled times in Sacramento. We gather here like this in the bad times and in the difficult times, and people support one another. Well, we support each other as well to make sure that we can deliver this kind of news to the people of Sacramento. Finally, you stop and smell the roses when there is a moment of good news, but you don't rest on your laurels and say, well, that's good. That's good. Because even these reductions don't mean that there isn't real crime in Sacramento. And so the work needs to continue. And the additional $3.2 million, the work of our fine police department and our police officers, and this collaboration gives us the chance of being able to make these numbers even better over the next year or two. So let me, I'm taking my moment in the sun here. So let me turn over the microphone here for further introductions of all the partners here who have helped make this possible. My thank you to all of you. Let me turn it over to our great police chief, Kathy Lester.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. You know, I stood before you in June of last year. It was right here in this council chamber, and we proposed a plan that was really one not like any other. It's not a surprise to anyone that we saw rising violent crime through the pandemic. And when I reported last year, when you looked at what was happening nationally, homicide was up 36%, aggravated assaults were up about 18%. But here in Sacramento, our homicide rate went up 70%. Our violent assaults went up 43%, and those are numbers that no chief wants to have to reckon with. But what I can tell you is that we worked very, very hard to come up with a strategy that we thought would work for Sacramento. Many of us have been here for many years, including myself, 30 years almost with our police department. And what I know about Sacramento is that we have a great community. We all know each other. We all work with each other. And for many years, I've been watching great community organizations do fantastic work in our community. We had just never really formalized that. But we were giving a great opportunity last year when the Office of Violence Prevention joined the police department, brought their skills with them, and then we in turn were able to support their efforts with a more focused enforcement strategy that really works on prevention, intervention, and interruption. And so we proposed the focused deterrence model. It's well researched. There's a lot that's known about urban violence. We know that most urban violence occurs in very small geographic areas by a very small number of offenders. And having that information at hand, it gives you a starting point. So based on a lot of national research, a lot of very smart people, a lot of models that have and haven't worked, we proposed this joint partnership with our community-based organizations and our police department. And certainly the numbers don't lie. However, even through 2022, we certainly had challenges. We saw some increases in robberies. We were pretty close to the national average, with the homicide. Well, the homicide rate nationally last year reduced about 6%. We saw 7%. But what we also saw I also want to make sure that I recognize the men and women of our Sacramento Police Department. being a cop is certainly no easy job. I think that we would all agree. It's very, very tough times. We're getting pulled in a lot of directions. We have a lot of challenges, you know, wonderful things like supporting great events in these cities, all the way to, you know, trying to staff midnight sideshows that, you know, we're trying to address. However, despite having, you know, low staffing numbers like many large agencies, I have to say the heart, the compassion, the dedication of the men and women of this department who understand what an impact violence has on our community and what their role is in trying to bring that down have worked very hard day in and day out over the last year and a half to address this problem collectively. But we also could not have done it without our community partners. When we've talked about this in the past, and I know you've heard me say this multiple times, I say that, you know, our public safety is really a collective and a shared responsibility. And I really believe it is. We cannot do it alone, not the city, not our community-based organizations, and not the police department, but we can certainly do it together. So I'm very, very proud of the partnership. I'm very proud also of our organizations that took a risk with us, right? You know, partnering with the police department, but still being able to independently do what they do best, which is work with individuals in our community that are at risk of being involved in a crime or being a victim of a crime, trying to offer services, trying to intervene before crimes happen. And I'm very excited to see what the next year brings. I'd like to just thank some of our partners. You know, when we embarked on this project, we got great support from Sutter Health, who gave us as their contribution to reducing violent crime in Sacramento, technical and administrative oversight. And that allowed us to put more money into our community organization. So very grateful for that. To the Sacramento County Office of Education, who does our analysis and really checks to see that we're hitting our metrics. You know, very much appreciate that. Also to our federal partners, we were very blessed in that we received a federal public safety partnership grant. We were one of only 6 cities last year to receive the grant, and I really believe that the reason we were chosen has to do with this incredible partnership that we have between public safety, law enforcement, and our community. And they're providing us a lot of technical assistance, federal supports, you know, looking at our technology, looking at everything we can do to maximize our effectiveness and really bring down crime and truly deliver public safety. And of course, I have to thank Dr. Nicole Clavo, who I think we referred to as our mama bear last night, right? Who has really taken this head on, who works as just a wonderful advocate for our community, for our public safety partners, and has really helped lead us in the right direction. So as we move into the next year, you know, we've certainly taken a lot from our community, always talked about this being an evidence-informed strategy and a community-informed strategy. So what you'll see in the next year are, you know, continued adjustments, continued improvements, and certainly bring the voice of the community to what we do. And I am very excited and very grateful that our city leaders recognize the value of this program and chose to fund it accordingly with some additional funding. Thank you very much for coming out so that you could cover this today and that we could share this wonderful news. And with that, I will turn it over to our great mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Lester. Really, really well said. Before I turn over to Dr. Clavo, I want to add one more set of thank yous. You know, like the police officers are sometimes, let's say, criticized quite a bit and have tough jobs. I want to speak on behalf of my fellow politicians here, specifically my colleagues on the city council, because they have chosen to prioritize these investments, not just this year, but consistently. I think back to Councilmember Rick Jennings and his championing the then Youth Gang Task Force work in the first $1 million. Every opportunity this city council has had, whether it's through the CARES Act, the American Rescue Plan Act, Measure U, the general fund itself, this city council has chosen to put real money into young people and into violence prevention, and supported our police budgets as well. And so I just want to give them a shout out as well. Dr. Clavo, thank you, who really is, along with Chief Lester, really leading this effort in such an exemplary way.
Good afternoon, everyone. There's not much left for me to say. Chief and Mayor have really done a great job describing what we are doing in this partnership, in this collaboration. The individuals you see behind us, I would be remiss not to be very grateful to the men in uniform, as well as the CBOs behind us. The CBOs that you see, they're doing fabulous work. They've been chosen to work with some of the hardest demographic, hardest individuals that we have in our underserved communities. And we have to be thankful for that. Some of these individuals are called in the middle of the night to come out to these communities that may have had shootings. There may have been car accidents, whatever that critical incident may be. These individuals that you see here are tasked with working through those incidents with those individuals, those families, and being there firsthand to deal with this trauma. And also some of them are dealing with their own trauma. So we have to be thankful for them because they are helping us bring these numbers down. They are helping us solve some of these issues and making sure that they don't rise to the level of having issues. So I thank you all that are standing behind me. I think it's really important that the community understands and continue to support these community-based organizations. I thank the council for entrusting me to be the one to help move this mission along. Thank you.
I know this is not on the agenda, but I think we should have everyone go around and say what organization you're from. Please, people need to know, including the officers and the leadership. Go ahead.
Lieutenant Joshua Dobson, Sacramento Police Department.
Adrian Suggs, Hope.
Captain Greg Halstead, Sacramento Police Department.
Nikki Whiteside, Hope.
Michelle Ali, Well Space Health Sacramento Violence Intervention Program.
Jerome Anderson, SAR, Self-Awareness and Recovery.
Zay Gonzalez, Self-Awareness and Recovery.
Kehlani Panetta, Sutter Health.
Dr. Eric Gravenberg, Hawk Institute.
Aaron Cardoza, Brother to Brother.
Mervyn Bridges, Brother to Brother.
Bill Knowlton, Reimagine Back Road Foundation.
Jason Dillard, Academics for Athletes.
Jeff Wilson, Academics for Athletes. Chris Palumbo, all in together.
Mason Bizarre at Sacramento Youth Center.
Raquel Ship, Sacramento Youth Center.
Ethan Hansen, Sac PD.
Dan Monk, Sac PD.
Daniel Silva, Self-Awareness and Recovery.
These are the people in the community actually delivering us better public safety and these results which we're so proud to announce here today. It is brother to brother, sister to sister. It is person to person. That's what makes it work. And so please welcome the leader of Brother to Brother, Merv Brookins.
Thank you, Mayor. There really is nothing left to say. But Dr. Cabo said it, I was like, she got my line, and then I said, maybe I'll introduce everybody, but then the mayor comes on.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna just sit here for the photo op. But no, honestly, a year ago when the chief brought out her plan to combat violence, and she talked about it being a data-driven approach. And I didn't know what that meant, and a lot of people didn't know what that meant, and it sounded kind of sketchy. So we were having to learn it and explain it at the same time. But here we are a year later, and basically what that meant was she took the facts that was given to her through the data, focused on the 3 areas that were most impacted, and not only empowered those of us in the community-based organizations to address those areas. When we talk about collaboration, she gave us the resources to serve the people in that area, in those specific areas. And we were able to go out and build relationships. We were able to go out and help people help themselves. And in doing so, that meant we had to develop a relationship with law enforcement, which continues today. You hear collaboration between law enforcement and community-based organizations. That's very real. It's very real and it's very critical. And what that looks like now, because of the relationships that we've been able to build, oftentimes in the past when law enforcement encountered a youth that may be acting up, the only option they had was to take them to juvenile hall, or if they're a little bit older, take them to jail. Today, you have law enforcement officers that will stop and call a community-based organization and say, hey, I got this youngster out here, can you come out and help? Can you come out and intervene? So we're doing real live intervention, and I want to thank our law enforcement partners for reaching out, because I know they got a lot of flack for reaching out to the community. I know the community-based organization, we got a lot of flack for reaching back, but we're here today. And because of the arrows in the back and all of the flack that we all withstood, those numbers are going down. Those are real numbers, as someone said earlier, that impacts people's lives. So again, let's continue to do the work and keep this narrative going. The last thing I'll share is the hardest part about this work is that when we're successful, nothing ever happens. You don't have anything to report. So it may appear as if the work isn't being done, but just remember, think of the last time you had to go out and cover a gang involved shooting. You have to go back in your mind. And that's because of the work that everyone up here is doing. And that is that work is the result of the collaboration. You can't do it law enforcement alone, and CBOs can't do it alone. But just remember that when you have nothing to report, you have these people to thank.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Bert Brookins for mayor.
Time for
We'd
two or
be
three
happy
questions.
to answer any questions, including any of the organizations here. They can say it better than I can, sir.
Question for Chief Lester, Becca Haviger, ABC 10 News. Obviously, these are impressive numbers, but I'm wondering if you can contextualize it pre-pandemic, because as you said, law enforcement agencies all across the nation saw a spike in crime during the pandemic, and the numbers we're seeing today are being compared to a year ago, still kind of seeing that pandemic impact. I think back to 2019 when we got to report there were 0 youth homicides in the city and in the county. So how do these numbers compare? Is it just sort of a resetting of a baseline? How is it kind of to that pre-pandemic spike?
Sure, thank you for asking, because that's a great question. You can talk about statistics in any way. So I think what we're most proud of is that we're seeing these drastic reductions, but you're absolutely right. We are now trending down towards pre-pandemic levels, right? And so I think that's very important. I do, because there's so many things that change throughout the years, a lot of different conditions and circumstances. For me, I'm very big on comparing us to similar urban areas across the United States. And you're seeing a very mixed result with crime and violent crime across the United States. Some major cities and urban centers are seeing increases, some are seeing decreases. What I can tell you is when we compare ourselves this year to what we're seeing nationally, we are significantly trending down. But that does put us back, close to pre-pandemic levels. And so it's nice to quantify that. Thank you for asking that question.
Chief Lester, why compare two 9-month stretches, 2022, 2023, and not a full year worth of data?
Sure, and our PIO team can certainly give you all of the data. For the sake of brevity, we just talked about that window. I think because we've seen the most significant reductions. We watched the crime really take an upward trend starting about 2020, which tied in right with the pandemic. Certainly not saying that was the cause of what we were seeing, but we continue to see this upward trend through 2021. Even 2022, when we started to really implement the strategy, change doesn't happen right away. But because we're seeing such drastic reductions, I think that's really important to share. But certainly, when you're looking at crime, when you're looking at crime data, it's important to look at not just 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. And while we're certainly coming out with great numbers now, like the mayor said, that doesn't mean the work is done. That doesn't mean that we're taking a pause. We're still moving forward and hope to see, continued reductions through this partnership.
I would say the one thing that is significant to me about September 30th being the end date is that takes us through the hot summer in Sacramento.
Sure does.
And summertime we know can be a time of trouble, but it's also a time of great opportunity, especially when the CEOs step up and provide the kind of programming that they provide.
Chief, Shantae with CBS 13 here. Going back to the DOJ, besides them providing technical assistance, they also provided a grant. If that's the case, is it one-time funding or is it for a set amount of time? And then what about the funding going towards the CBOs here right now?
Great, thank you for asking. So the grant is actually a grant for technical assistance. The value is about $700,000 or $800,000. So it's not a monetary grant, but essentially it's a 3-year program where we partner with our federal partners through the Department of Justice and CDJA. We were assigned a strategic site liaison, who's Mr. Darnell Davenport. He actually spoke at council last night and went through kind of all the different metrics. But for example, what they do is they come in, they take a look at our organization. They're providing 3 assessments right now and a 4th next year. And they'll come back with ideas on how we can improve within our existing structure. One of the other things that they're really great about doing is exchanging ideas. You know, I'm not ashamed of stealing good ideas from other agencies if they help what we're trying to do here. So they partner us with peers in our, really in our profession across the board. And we look to see what other agencies are doing, what's working, what we can bring back here. It's also really strengthened our partnership. And we had a great relationship with our federal partners, but it's really bringing them on board to help us in many ways with enforcement and support here in Sacramento.
We have time for one more question.
I'm sorry, what about the funding for the CDOs?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is
Would
that
you like to talk about that funding?
Yeah, as I said earlier, this is a multi-year investment from the city council here in Sacramento. This year was $3.2 million, and we hope that we're going to be able to continue that investment. In fact, I would say we're very committed to continuing that investment. Certainly, you know, the ups and downs of the budget, we always have to tread, but this is a priority. It has to be a priority, especially with these kinds of numbers. We have to continue to make these investments to create not only the better opportunities for young people, but also to create this kind of intervention model that Merv Brookins talked about a moment ago. I mean, to relieve the police department from all of the responsibility and to provide somebody who may be having a very, very tough time the kind of support and help that they need so that they stay out of jail or stay out of more trouble. So we're very committed to this, and good results beget more resources so that we can get even better results.
And I actually have a follow-up to that question, so that was the perfect leeway. If I'm understanding it correctly, the first initial 3.2 million and then the eventual hopeful 9.6 million over the next 3 years all stems from Measure U, and that's something that people vote on. In the city of Sacramento, voters are approving those measures every year. Seeing how powerful these funds are from Measure U have been, at least over the past year, after the 3 years, is that something that would go to voters? Or is it something that we would be able to allocate already from like the general fund? Like, how do we keep it going?
So just a brief history of Measure U. In 2013, I believe it was, the voters passed the first half-cent Measure U to make up for all the cuts that were necessary during the recession. Then I became mayor in 2016. In 2018, I said, let's not only renew it because it had a limited time, but let's add another half cent. And we did. And I took that to the voters, Measure U in 2018, the voters said yes. That's an additional $70+ million every year. It has saved the city budget, frankly, and enabled us to do more of that. I'm proud of that. I campaigned to say, let's put most of it directly in the community. And it has been used in a combination of ways. Investing directly in the community in these kinds of programs to help pay for city services and for the hardworking men and women who work for the city, both on the public safety side and on the non-public safety side. And so it does not have to go back to the voters again. It is in perpetuity. So it will be up to the city council every year to decide to renew this investment. What I'm saying is, I'm confident that they will. I have 1 year left. And then whoever succeeds me and whoever is on the city council, this is undeniable. That this is a core investment for the city of Sacramento. Every bit as important as any other investment. Let's just keep delivering results.
Thank you.
All right? All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.